My own daughter-in-law called me useless. But that day I tasted that I still scented in the family. You are a dead weight in this house. Christina's words echoed through the dining room like a slap in the face. There I was, Miguel Santos, 58, sitting at the table I had bought myself 15 years ago, being humiliated in front of all my grandson's birthday guests, the party I had helped pay. The silence that followed was deafening. My daughter-in-law was standing, her red face of anger pointing her finger at me like I was a dog who had suited the rug. On my right side, my son Ricardo lowered his head, as he always did when she distilled her poison. The guests, neighbors, relatives, family friends, looked at me with a mixture of penalty and embarrassment. "Christina, please." I tried to talk, but she cut me like a blade. "No, Miguel, enough. I can't take it anymore that everything is fine." She turned to the guests as if making a speech. "You don't know what it's like to live with it. He doesn't work, doesn't help at all. Just stay there on the couch watching television and eating our food." Each word was like a hammer hitting my chest. There was a 35-year-old blonde, light-skinned woman who had known a life of comfort thanks to the sweat of my face, calling me parasite. She wore an expensive red dress, probably cost more than I earned in a month when she still had a job. Her nails were done, her hair was in the salon, and she talked to me like I was a beggar who had invaded her house. "Do you know what revolts me most?" she continued, now heading directly to Dona Carmen, our neighbor for 20 years. "He keeps doing a poor guy, as if life had been unfair to him. But the truth is that he doesn't even seek a proper job." I felt my blood boil. It was not true. I had lost my job at Metallurgical 6 months ago, after 23 years dedicated to that company. Steel and Santo Andre closed the doors overnight, sent everyone away without a thank you. Since then, I woke up at 5 in the morning every day, took 2 buses to reach the city center and knocked from door to door looking for work. He sent resumes over the internet, talked to acquaintances, made bricks of bricklayers on weekends. But who hires a black man of almost 60 years these days? And the worst, Christina continued, now gesturing dramatically, is that he acts like the owner of the house, as if we gave him something. That's when his Jose, my compadre for over 15 years, couldn't stand it anymore and spoke. "Calm down, Christina. Miguel has always been a hard-working man. I have known him since when, your Jose?" she countered, turning to him with sparkling eyes. "Did you see he looking for a job? Do you see him doing something useful in the last 6 months? Because I see he on the couch all day." My compadre was speechless. He did not know that I left every day before 6 in the morning and only returned in the late afternoon, just not to give ammunition to Christina. He didn't know I had lunch a sandwich on the street so as not to eat her food, as she liked to say. He didn't know that I had thinned 8 pounds in recent months because I would rather starve to hear her complain that I was eating too much. "Mom, to this," said Ricardo, finally lifting his voice but without looking in the eye. My son was 40, 2 years old, a sales manager at a dealership, driving a car of the year, but in front of his wife behaved like a 10-year-old boy. "For nothing, Ricardo. Your father needs to hear that." Christina crossed her arms, pleased with the audience she had. "I'm tired of sustaining a man who is for nothing. My parents warned me that this was going to happen when you got married in a poor family." This last sentence was like a punch in the stomach. Poor family. I remembered when Ricardo was 16 and wanted a brand tennis to wear at school. I worked 3 weekends carrying cement on a work to buy that tennis for him. I remembered when he was 18 and I sold my bike, my only means of transport at the time, to give him a party. I remembered every time I slept on the floor of the living room so he could have a room of him. "Family of poor," I repeated softly to myself than for anyone else. "Exactly," Christina clapped, as if I had understood an important lesson. "And now, do you want me to support this here? What do I accept to have an old and useless man living in my house? At home," she said, "my house. The house I had bought with my sweat money. The house I had painted with my own hands. The house where I had exchanged the bathroom tiles working whole nights after work. The house where I had planted the backyard hose that now gave shadow to the jokes of my grandson." It was at this moment that something inside me broke. It wasn't just humiliation. I've swallowed many in recent months. It was the stark injustice of the situation. If any of them knew what I had hidden for all these years, they would never talk to me like that. I got up my chair slowly, feeling the weight of my 58 years and a lifetime of hard work. For 43 years, I had sweated blood to support this family. I started working at the age of 15 in a mechanical workshop in Bras to help my mother pay the rent of our shack in the favela. At the 18, he was already the best welder in the region. At 25, I married Sandra, my late wife, and put a penny money per penny to get out of the periphery and buy our first house. This same house where now I was treated like a parasite. I looked around the table and saw faces I had known for decades. Dona Carmen, who had helped change her electric shower more than 10 times. Su Antonio, who always came here to watch the Corinthians games with me, my sister-in-law Fatima, which I had loaned money for her to open her beauty salon. They all knew what kind of man I was. They all knew what I was able, but none of them knew about the envelope stored at the bottom of my wardrobe 15 years ago. "You're right, Christina," I said, in such a calm voice that I was surprised. "I really don't serve for anything." She smiled, pleased, thinking she had won. He even ran a hand over his hair, as if he was getting ready for a picture of Vittoria. "Glad you recognize it," he said, smoothing the dress. "Now maybe you take an attitude and look for a place to live more suitable for your situation. And maybe it's time for you to know some things," I completed, keeping the tone serene. Her smile has faltered. Something in my way of speaking made her uncomfortable. Ricardo first looked at me in months with an expression I couldn't decipher. Was it fear? Curiosity? Blame? I had kept that secret for so long that I had gotten used to his weight. It was like carrying a stone in the chest every day for years and years. But at that moment, watching my daughter-in-law humiliate me in front of people I have known for decades, seeing my own son accept silent that his wife called me dead weight, I felt that he could not stand it anymore. The truth is that I was not just Miguel Santos, the unemployed metallurgist. I was not just the useless father-in-law that became a burden to the family. 15 years ago, when I bought this house, I didn't only use bank financing money. I used something no one in my family never suspected that I had. At 43, right after Ricardo married Christina, I had done something that changed my life forever. Something that could have become a rich man, but who chose to keep secret to protect my family, to protect the tranquility they had, so that they never have to worry about certain complications. At the time, I was working on a work in the city center, doing the welding service of a metal structure for a commercial building. It was there that I met Dr. Fernando Machado, a businessman who was building his new office. He had noticed my work, praised my dedication, and made me a proposal that would change everything. A proposal that I accepted only once. A proposal that earned me an amount that I never imagined possessing. An amount that I kept absolute secret for 15 years, using only small parts of it in times of extreme need, always inventing explanations for Sandra, and, after her death, to Ricardo. But now, seeing Christina destroying me like that, seeing my own son accept silent that his wife humiliated me in my own home, I started to question whether all that protection had been worth it. "Miguel, what are you wanting to say?" Ricardo asked. And for the first time in months, I noticed a tip of concern in his voice. I looked around the table. 22 people, all looking at me like I was an unbalanced old man about to make a scene. Christina with that smile from those who just got a discussion. My grandson, Lucas, just 8 years old, not understanding why Grandma was screaming with Grandpa. "I'm saying that you may not know who is really sitting on this table," I said, feeling a strange sense of relief starting to take care of me. It was exactly at this moment that my cell phone rang, a number I had not seen for months, but I recognized immediately. It was his, Dr. Henrique Alvarenga, the Advocacy Alvarenga and Asociados, the man who took care of my special affairs 15 years ago, the man who had last called me 6 months ago, the eve of me losing my job, with a proposal that I had refused once again, the proposal that would change everything, the proposal I had rejected dozens of times to keep my family alone. I looked at the phone screen, then to Christina, then to Ricardo. They were waiting for me to hang up and apologize, as I always did, hoping me to lower my head and go back to my corner like a punished dog. But this time, for the first time in 15 years, I attended. "Hello? Miguel? Dr. Henrique, I need to talk to you urgently. It's about, well, you know what we talked about 6 months ago." I felt a shiver up the spine. For years I had run away from that conversation. For years I had chosen the tranquility of my family instead of what was right to me. But now, after hearing my daughter-in-law call me the dead weight in front of everyone, "You can talk, doctor. Not over the phone, Miguel, but I need to come to my office tomorrow. Things have changed a lot, and this time I don't think you should refuse." I turned off my cell phone under everyone's curious look. Christina had completely lost his smile. Ricardo was staring at me as if he was seeing a ghost. Even Donna Carmen had stopped eating the cake to watch me. "Who was it?" he asked my daughter-in-law, trying to sound casual, but I realized the tension in her voice. I kept my cell phone in my pocket and sat again. For the first time in months I was smiling. It was someone who will change a lot here. And as I said that, I watched Christina swallow hard. She didn't know, but she had just awakened something I had dormant for 15 years. Something that could transform not only my life but the life of this whole family that saw me like a dead weight. What she didn't know is that the dead weight was about to get up. And when that happened, she would find that she had completely underestimated the man who was sitting at her table. The next morning I woke up at 5 in the morning as I always did, But this time it was not to look for a job. It was to go to Dr. Henrique Alvarenga's office and finally face what I had avoided for 15 years. The house was silent. Cristina and Ricardo still slept in their room, probably exhausted after the theatrical performance of the night before. While preparing my coffee, I couldn't stop thinking about her words. Family of poor, dead weight, my home. Each word echoed in my head like a hammer. I went to the room that divided with my grandson Lucas when he was visiting me, the same room that was one day mine and Sandra. I opened the wardrobe and looked behind the old shirts until I found what I was looking for, a yellowish, sealed envelope that had not opened for 5 years. Inside it was everything: documents, contracts, certificates, everything that proved that Miguel Santos was not just a retired metallurgist. Everything I proved that I had hidden the truth of my own family to protect them from complications they would never understand. As I held the envelope, I remembered how it all started. It was 2010. Ricardo had just married Cristina and was concerned about money. He wanted to buy a better home, wanted to comfort his new wife, but his salary was not enough. I saw my son suffering, working bent, and it destroyed me inside. That's when I met Dr. Fernando Machado in that work in the center. He was building a commercial building and needed someone reliable for a specific service. It was not just welding. It was something that required discretion, absolute confidentiality, and a righteous man who knew how to keep his mouth closed. Miguel, he had told me that day, you have an opportunity to win in a year what would not earn in 10, but it will require you to never tell anyone about it, not for your family. I should have suspected. It should have asked more details. But when he showed me the value, when he explained to me that it would be just a job, that there was nothing illegal, that it was just a matter of, let's say, avoid unnecessary taxes, I accepted. For 6 months I worked for him, soldering structures at specific times, at specific places, always alone, always in silence. The money was deposited in an account that he opened for me, an account that only I knew. And at the end of these 6 months, I was almost 500,000 reais, enough money to buy the house where now I was treated as an intruder, but also money that came with a responsibility. Never reveal where it came from. Dr. Fernando had explained to me that there were other people involved, powerful people, and that my security and my family depended on my silence. For 15 years I kept this secret. I used small amounts when necessary. For Sandra's heart surgery, for Ricardo's studies for medical emergencies. Always invented plausible explanations. I won in the lottery, a friend lent me, got a bonus at work, and they believed it because they trusted me. Now, holding that envelope, I wondered if all this protection had been worth it. I kept the documents back and left. Dr. Henrique's office was in the center in an elegant building that always intimidated me. When I arrived, the secretary recognized me immediately. "Good morning, Mr. Miguel. Dr. Henrique is waiting for you." He was older, his hair completely gray, but the smile was still the same. Henrique Alvarenga was the lawyer who took care of Dr. Fernando Machado's special affairs since 2010, and in the last 5 years he had wanted me several times with proposals that I always refused. "Miguel, my friend," he said, getting up to greet me. "Finally you decided to hear me. Doctor, yesterday something happened that made me rethink some things." He gestured for me to sit and went straight to the point. "Dr. Fernando died 3 months ago, Miguel." I felt the blood freeze in the veins. Fernando Machado had been my contact during all these years. He was the one who guaranteed that the money would remain mine. He promised I was protected. "How did you die?" "Cancer. Very fast." But before leaving, he made a point of regularizing some pending situations. "And you, my dear Miguel, are one of them." Dr. Henrique opened a folder on the table and showed me documents that I had never seen. "You know the service you provided to him in 2010 was much more important than I imagined, right?" I shook my head. In fact, I had never completely understood what I was doing for Dr. Fernando. I knew it was important. I knew it involved discretion, but the details were always denied. "Miguel, you sold out the structures that support the 3 largest shopping centers in the east of São Paulo, structures that move millions of reais per month, and Dr. Fernando was just an intermediary." He showed me photographs of the works I had done. I recognized my work immediately. The perfect welds, the structures I had helped to lift. The real owner of these ventures is a group of entrepreneurs who prefers to stay in anonymity, and they always knew that you were the person who had done the fundamental work. "Doctor, I don't understand. They want to hire you again, Miguel, but this time it is not for 6 months. It is to supervise the construction of an entire business complex. The salary would be 50,000 reais per month for 2 years, another 2 million bonus at the end of the project." I almost fell off the chair. 50,000 per month, 2 million bonuses. It was enough money to completely change my life. "But there is one condition," Dr. Henrique continued. "You would have to move to another state during the project period, Bahia specifically, and I couldn't reveal the details of the work to anyone. I left the office with my head running. The proposal was tempting, but meant leaving Sao Paulo, leaving my family, leave the house where it had been humiliated, but also leave my grandson, Sandra's memories, the life I built. When I got home around noon, I found a scene that made me suspicious. Ricardo was in the living room talking on the phone, with his back to the door, and did not see me arrive. "No, Mother, he doesn't suspect anything," he was saying. "Yesterday Christina exaggerated a little, but it was good to show that he needs to make a decision soon." I stopped behind the kitchen wall listening. "I know you don't like him, but it's my father." "What do you mean the lawyer called yesterday?" "What a lawyer?" My heart fired. "What a lawyer? Did they know about Dr. Henrique?" "No, Mother. He never commented on anything about lawyer." "What do you mean with hidden money?" I felt the floor flee from my feet. Christina's mother knew something. But how? "Okay, you come here this afternoon to talk, but you don't say anything to Christina yet, see? Let's first be sure." Ricardo hung up the phone and I quickly pretended to be coming, making noise with the keys. "Hi, Father," he said, but avoided looking in my eyes. "How was the search for a job today?" "Normal, son. Normal." For the rest of the day, I observed his behavior. Ricardo was nervous, checked his cell phone all the time, and talked in whispers with Christina. When the night came, a woman I didn't know appeared on our door. "Dad, this is Dona Margot, Christina's mother," Ricardo presented. Dona Margot was a woman of about 60, elegant, light-skinned, with that superior way of those who always had money. She greeted me coldly and soon asked to talk to Ricardo and Christina in particular. They locked themselves in the room. I stayed in the room, pretending to watch television but trying to hear fragments of the conversation. What I was able to hear, the blood froze me. Private investigation, bank account, $500,000. His lawyer called yesterday. He knows we discovered. Need to act fast before he hides everything. Mental disability, guardianship. They were talking about guardianship. They wanted to declare me and unable to take care of the money they thought I had. But how did they find out? It was then that I remembered something that had happened 2 weeks ago. Christina had organized my room while I was out. He said he wanted to help. He was worried about the mess. At the time, I found it strange because she never showed concern for me. Now everything made sense. She had found something. Maybe not the main envelope, but maybe some roll I had forgotten, some evidence of the bank account, something that aroused her suspicion. And her mother apparently had the resources to investigate deeper. I stayed in the room until they finished the conversation. When Dona Margot left, she looked at me differently. It was no longer contempt. It was interest. It was the way someone looks at a prey. "Good night, Miguel," she said, and there was something in her voice that shivered me. Ricardo and Christina returned to the room by pretending to be natural, but I realized that something had changed. They knew. They didn't know everything, but they knew enough to be dangerous. "Dad," Ricardo said, sitting next to me on the couch, "we wanted to talk to you." "Speak, son." "We have been thinking a lot about the situation of the Lord. Unemployed with that age, it must be very difficult, right? Where did he want to go? And we wanted to suggest something," Christina added, with a smile that didn't come to the eye. "How about if you were going to live in a nursing home? A quiet place, with medical care, people your age." "Nursing home?" I repeated incredulously. "It is temporary, Father, only until the Lord recovers from this depression who is feeling." Depression. They were planting a narrative. First humiliate me, then diagnose me with depression, then get Horn and finally get the guardianship of my goods. "I have no depression, Ricardo." "Father, you are very strange. Yesterday was saying these weird things about secrets, about lawyers. And we just want the best for the Lord," Christina added, taking my hand with a false delicacy that disgusted me. I looked at both of them, my own son, the daughter-in-law I had helped to support for years, the two plotting against me, planning to steal me, hospitalize me, get me out of the scene to get something that didn't even know what it was. "I'll think about it," I said, forcing a smile. "Of course, Father. The Lord has all the time in the world." "But by the way," Christina said, I knew this time was running out quickly. That night, lying on the bed looking at the ceiling, I made a decision. If they wanted to play dirty, if they thought they could manipulate me and steal me, they didn't really know Miguel Santos. Tomorrow, I would return to Dr. Henrique, and this time, I would not refuse the proposal. But before that, I would find out exactly what they knew and how they had discovered. Because if there is one thing I learned in 43 years of hard work, is that information is power, and I was about to recover mine. The next morning I woke up with a determination I hadn't felt for months. If my own family was plotting against me, I needed to find out exactly what they knew and how they had discovered. Most importantly, I needed evidence. I left home pretending to look for a job as I always did, but this time, I went straight to the city center to look for an old acquaintance of mine, Sebastião Oliveira, a private investigator who had known years ago when he was still working in the police. Sebastian was a black man like me in the 50 house who had dropped the corporation after seeing a lot of corruption. Now he worked on his own, helping ordinary people to solve problems that the police did not solve. "Miguel Santos," he exclaimed when he saw me entering his small office. "How old, man? What does you bring you here?" I told him the whole situation, Christina's humiliation, Ricardo's suspicious conversation, Dona Margot's visit, the mention of guardianship. Sebastian listened to everything in silence, making some notes. "Dude, it smells like a blow from the chest," he said, shaking his head. "They found that you have money and are trying to pass you back. Do you have any idea how they may have discovered? Christina organized my room 2 weeks ago. Maybe I found something. And you really have all this money?" I looked at him. Sebastian was one of the few people I completely trusted. "I have, Sebastian. Much more than they imagine." He ravaged softly. "So you are screwed, my brother. If they can prove that you have a mental problem, they can ask for guardianship in court and take care of everything. It's more common than you think. What do I do? First, we need to find out what exactly they know. Second, we need proof that they are plotting against you. And third, you need to protect that money before it's too late." Sebastian explained to me that I could install some listening equipment in my own home. It was not illegal since I was authorizing myself, since it was my residence. We agreed that he would spend there the next day, when Ricardo and Christina were working. I returned home in the late afternoon and found a scene that confirmed all my suspicions. Christina was in the living room talking on the phone, but when she saw me, she quickly closed the call. "Hi, father-in-law," she said with a forced smile. "How was the job search today?" "Normal," I answered, observing your behavior. She was nervous, stirring her hair, avoiding looking straight at me. "Does Ricardo haven't arrived yet?" "No, he had to stay later at the dealership today. Some problem with the paperwork, I don't know what." "Lee, Ricardo always warned me when he was going to be late, and he never talked about paperwork. He was always specific about the problems of work. During dinner, I observed each movement of them. Ricardo arrived at 9 at night, greeted his wife with a long kiss, something that had not been for months, and greeted me with an exaggerated courtesy. "So, Dad, how was the day?" "Quiet, son. And yours?" I would run in the store, but I managed to solve that problem that was worrying me." "What problem?" He had never commented on any problem with me. After dinner, they locked themselves in the room again. This time I was able to hear some fragments touching the ear on the wall. "My mother's lawyer said it's simpler than we thought. Medical report is easy to achieve, especially at his age. 2 weeks at most and we have the control of everything. Need to act before he suspects more." I felt my blood boil. They were really planning to declare me incapable mentally, and apparently they had a lawyer helping and already knew how to get a fake medical report. The next day, Sebastian appeared at 10 in the morning when the house was empty. He installed small recorders in strategic places, in the living room, the kitchen, and their bedroom. It also put some equipment on the landline. "These equipment record everything and send straight to my cell phone," he explained. "In 3 days we will have enough material to know exactly what they are planning." "How long do you think I have?" "If they are really talking in 2 weeks, you have little time, Miguel. You need to start moving." That afternoon I went to the bench where I kept my secret account 15 years ago. It was a small agency in the center, where no one in my family had ever stepped on. I talked to the manager, Mr. Antonio, who had known me since 2010. "Mr. Miguel, what a pleasure to see you. It's been a long time since it appears here. Mr. Antonio, I need your help. I have a family problem and I need to protect my resources." I explained the situation to him, obviously omitting the details about how he had gotten the money. Mr. Antonio listened to everything carefully. "I understand perfectly, Mr. Miguel. Unfortunately, such cases are more common than the Lord imagines. Children who try to take advantage of elderly parents. What can I do?" "Several things. First, we can transfer funds to one account in another bank, in a different city. Second, we can create a legal entity, a company in its name, which makes any attempt to block legal blockade. Third, I can indicate a family law lawyer to guide you." I left the bench with a sense of relief. At least my money would be protected, but I still needed the evidence against them. At 6 in the afternoon, my cell phone rang. It was Sebastian. "Miguel, you need to listen to it urgently. I'm sending an audio to your WhatsApp now." When I heard the recording, I wanted to vomit. It was a conversation between Christina and her mother. "Mother, Dr. Cardoso confirmed that he gets the psychiatric report without problem. It will cost 5,000 reais, but he signs that the old man has senile dementia." "Great, daughter. And the lawyer?" "Everything is already sent. Since we have the report, the tutelage process comes out in a week. Dr. Rocha guarantees that has contacts in the forum. And Ricardo? It's nervous, but agreed. He knows it is for the good of the family. Imagine if the old man decides to give all this money to a church or to a woman. How much do you think he has?" The detective investigation you hired confirmed at least $500,000 in the account we found out. But it may have hidden. $500,000? Dona Margot's voice was full of greed. With this money you can buy a larger house. Put Lucas in a private school. I know, Mother. That's why it needs to be fast. On Monday I miled on the consultation with Dr. Cardoso. The recording ended. I was shaking with anger. Not only were they planning to steal me, but had already hired a corrupt doctor to falsify a report and a lawyer to accelerate the lawsuit. But what hurt me most was to hear my own son agreeing with that. Ricardo, who had created that I had sacrificed so much to give a better life, was willing to betray me for money. That night, during dinner, they acted as if nothing is happening. Christina even made a point of serving a special dessert to brighten the environment. Dad, Ricardo said, we talked and decided to speed up that idea of the nursing home. What do you mean accelerate? It's just a place in a very good place, but it has to be until next week. Next week? I find surprise. Yeah, Father. We know it's sudden, but it's a unique opportunity. The place is excellent. There are doctors, nurses, and how much is it? Christina and Ricardo exchanged a quick look. We worry about it, Father. In law, Christina replied. The important thing is that you are well cared for. But I don't feel sick, Father. You've been very forgotten lately. Ricardo lied blatantly. The other day even you didn't remember where you had put the documents. What documents? I had never mentioned lost documents. And yesterday, Christina added, you spent more than an hour looking for the glasses and was wearing them. Another lie. I didn't even wear glasses. They were building a narrative, planting evidence that I was losing my mental capacity. They probably already told these same lies to others, creating witnesses to the protection process. Okay, I said, pretending to resign. If you think it's the best for me. Yes, Dad, Ricardo said, looking relieved. You'll see how you will feel better there. That night I called Sebastio and told about the dinner conversation. Miguel, they are accelerating because they suspect you have discovered something. You have to act fast. What do you suggest? First, tomorrow you go to Dr. Henrique and accept that proposal. If you will have to leave Sao Paulo yourself, better with $2 million in your pocket than in a nursing home. And then we expose these sons from a bitch. But before you need to be protected, we turned off the phone and stared at the ceiling, thinking of everything that had happened in recent days. 15 years ago, when I received that money, I thought I was guaranteeing the future of my family. Now I found that this same money was destroying the ties I most valued. But there was something they didn't know, something that neither Sebastio knew. The $500,000 they had discovered was just a small part of what I really had. For 15 years, that money had earned interest, had been invested, had multiplied, and besides, there was the proposal of Dr. Henrique, 2 million reais for a 2-year work. If my family wanted to play dirty, if they thought they could fool me and steal me, they would find that they completely underestimated the man who helped create. The next morning, I woke up at 5 in the morning, not to look for a job, not to be humiliated, but to start turning the game. As I dressed, I heard Christina and Ricardo talking in their room. Today I called Dr. Cardoso to make the appointment, and I talked to the lawyer to advance the paperwork. Next week, everything will be resolved. Finally, let's have what we deserve. What we deserve. They really believed they deserved to steal the money I had saved for years. I left the house, and for the first time in months I was really smiling, because they didn't know that I had heard everything. They didn't know I had recorded proofs of the whole conspiracy, and especially they didn't know that instead of $500,000, they were trying to steal almost 3 million reais. But what they would find soon was that they had moved the wrong man. On Friday morning, at 8 at point, I was in Dr. Henrique Alvarenga's office with a determination I hadn't felt for years. Miguel, he said, smiling to see me. For his countenance, I imagine he has an answer to give me. I accept the proposal, doctor, all conditions. When can I start? Dr. Henrique leaned against his chair, clearly pleased. Excellent. The project starts on Monday. You would have to travel to Salvador on Sunday. It's very fast, I know, but perfect, I interrupted him. The faster, the better. Miguel, can I ask what made you change your idea so suddenly? I took a deep breath and told him about my family's conspiracy. Dr. Henrique heard everything in silence, shaking his head with disapproval. My dear Miguel, unfortunately such cases are more common than we imagined. Children who turn against parents for money, he sighed. But you are lucky. We have resources to help you. Like this? The entrepreneurs who hired him are not only rich, Miguel. They have influence, excellent lawyers, contacts in the judiciary, private investigators. If you want, we can not only protect it but also to expose this conspiracy publicly. I felt immense relief. Finally, I had powerful allies by my side. What do you suggest? First, let's transfer all your money to protected accounts. Second, let's legally document the entire conspiracy against you. And third, he smiled, let's prepare a surprise for your family. Dr. Henrique explained the plan to me. On Sunday, the day of my supposed trip to Salvador, there would be a meeting at my house. He would appear there with 2 lawyers and a representative of the entrepreneurs to clarify the financial situation of Miguel Santos. They think they will be hospitalized with $500,000 hidden, said Dr. Henrique. They will find that they are trying to steal a man with nearly 3 million reais who has just closed a 2-year contract worth 2 million more. I left the office feeling a different man. For the first time in months I had control of the situation. I returned home and pretended normality. Cristina was in the kitchen preparing lunch, whistling a song, clearly in a good mood. She didn't even imagine that in 3 days all her life would change. "Hi, father-in-law," she said, smiling. "How was the job search today?" "Very interesting, Cristina. Very interesting." During lunch, Ricardo came home earlier than normal. "Father, I need to say something to the Lord," he said, avoiding looking in my eyes. "I managed to speed up that vacancy in the nursing home." "Oh, is it?" "Yeah, Father. You can go on Monday. I already separated some of your clothes. The documents." "What efficiency," I commented, watching Cristina smile, satisfied. "And there is one more thing," Ricardo continued. "Before you go, we wanted to have a family reunion. Sunday, here at home. To say goodbye, right?" "Family meeting?" "This, Father. Cristina's mother will come, some relatives. We wanted it to be special." "Special?" They wanted it to be special because it would be the last time they would see me like a free man. In their heads, on Monday I would be hospitalized and they would have full control of my money. "Of course, son. It will be really special." That afternoon, as they thought I was sleeping, I called Sebastião. "Miguel, the recordings are getting better and better," he said. "This morning, Cristina called this Dr. Cardoso confirming the consultation for Monday, and Ricardo spoke to Dr. Rocha about accelerating the tutelage process. Sebastião, change of plans. Sunday will happen something they never expected." I told him about Dr. Henrique and the meeting plan. Sebastião was excited. "Dude, this will be better than movie. Do you want me to be there?" "Yes, I want. Bring the recordings, all the tests. It will be the time to show who they really are." On Saturday, the movement in the house increased. Cristina wiped everything, bought special food, even flowers to decorate the table. She was preparing a party to celebrate my end. "Father-in-law," she said, "tomorrow you'll see how your whole family loves you. It's going to be an unforgettable day." "I'm sure it's going, Cristina." Ricardo spent all day on the phone, apparently finalizing the details of the conspiracy. I heard fragments of conversations. Right Sunday after the family gathering. Monday morning, straight to the clinic. On Tuesday, already protocol the request for guardianship. In a week, everything is solved. Sunday arrived. At 2 in the afternoon, the house began to fill. Dona Margot was the first to arrive, elegant as always, greeted me with that fake smile. "Miguel, dear," she said, kissing me on the face. "What a joy to see you so quiet. If she knew what was coming. Also came my sister-in-law Fatima, 2 cousins of Cristina, some neighbors, and even your Joseph, my compadre, everyone thinking it was a simple family meeting. At 3 in the afternoon, when all they were in the living room talking and drinking soda, the doorbell rang. "I answer," said Cristina, jumping off the couch. When she opened the door, her expression changed completely. At the entrance were Dr. Henrique Alvarenga and 2 men of suit who were clearly lawyers. "Good afternoon," said Dr. Henrique politely. "We look for Mr. Miguel Santos." He is," Cristina stammered, looking at Ricardo in a panic. "I'm here," I said, getting up. "Please enter." The silence in the room was absolute. Everyone looked at the 3 men as if they were aliens. "Mr. Miguel," Dr. Henrique said aloud so that everyone listens, "we came here to clarify some questions about their financial situation." Ricardo was pale. Cristina held the wall not to fall. "My financial situation?" I asked, pretending to surprise. "Yes, Lord. It has come to our knowledge that some people have questioned their mental ability and their aptitude to manage their resources." Dona Margot swallowed hard. The guests looked at each other, confused. "What do you mean, resources?" Cristina tried to speak, but her voice came out weak. Dr. Henrique opened his folder and took several documents. "Mrs. Cristina, I presume. I'm Dr. Enrique Alvarenga, lawyer at Miguel Santos for 15 years ago. And these are Dr. Roberto Silva and Dr. Carlos Montenegro, legal representatives of the São Paulo Business Group." "Business Group?" Ricardo balbucated. "Exactly. Mr. Miguel has been our technical consultant for 15 years and has just signed a new 2-year contract worth 2,400,000 reais." The noise in the room was with glasses falling to the floor, literally. Dona Margot knocked down the soda. Cristina leaned on the table and Ricardo had his mouth open. 2,400,000? Your Joseph repeated, unbelieving. "That's right," confirmed Dr. Henrique. in addition to the resources Mr. Miguel already has in his personal accounts, which total approximately 2,800,000 Rs. 5,200,000 Rs, I said for the first time speaking. That's what you wanted to know, isn't it? Christina fell in the chair. Ricardo ran his hand on his forehead, sweating cold. Dad, what do you mean 5 million? It was at this moment that Sebastião entered the room. I had left the door unlocked to him. Excuse me, he said. I'm a private researcher and I have some important information to share. Sebastião turned on a small stereo and Christina's voice echoed through the room. Mother, Dr. Cardoso confirmed that he gets the psychiatric report without problem. It will cost 5,000 Rs, but he signs that the old man has senile dementia. The silence was deafening. Everyone looked at Christina, who was red with shame. Great daughter. And the lawyer? Everything is already sent. Since we have the report, the tutelage process comes out in a week. The recording continued, revealing the whole conspiracy. The corrupt doctor, the bought lawyer, the plan to intern me, the division of money they thought to steal. When the recording ended, Dona Carmen, our neighbor 20 years ago, was outraged. Cristina Santos, what a shame. How can you do this with your father-in-law? I can explain. Cristina tried to speak, but his Joseph interrupted her. Explain what, girl? You were going to steal the man and to hospitalize him in a hospice. It wasn't quite like that. How wasn't it? Dona Margot was now being confronted by my sister-in-law, Fatima. The lady is the mastermind of all this. Dr. Henrique raised his hand, asking for silence. There is one more thing you need to know, he said. Mr. Miguel has authorized us to register a police report against you for attempted estelionato, falsification of medical documents, and illegal embarrassment. Occurrence report? Ricardo finally reacted. Dad, this cannot be true. I looked at my son, my own son who had agreed to steal me, and felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Ricardo, for 40 years I worked to support this family. I sold bike to buy tennis for you. I slept on the floor for you to have a room. I painted this house with my own hands for you to have nowhere to live. My voice was firm, loaded with emotion, but controlled. And when I needed you the most, when I lost my job and it was vulnerable, you decided to betray me, steal me, humiliate me publicly. Christina started to cry, but it was not crying for regret. It was a cry of anger at being discovered. You fool us, she shouted. He was making a poor guy pretending to have no money. I never pretended anything, Christina. You assumed that I was a dead weight. You have decided that I did nothing. Dr. Roberto Silva, one of the lawyers, commented, Mr. Miguel, the documents are ready. You have two options. Register the criminal accusations or to accept that they sign a confess. They are, and commit to never approaching the Lord. I looked around the room. All the guests watched me, some with admiration, others with penalty of Ricardo and Christina. My grandson Lucas, who had descended from the room when he heard the confusion, was confused without understanding why everyone was screaming. I choose the confession, I answered, but with a condition. Which? Asked Ricardo, desperate. You'll move from this house, she's mine. It was bought with my money and I don't want to share space with people who plotted me anymore. Dad, please. And Christina, I continued, looking straight at her. You called me dead weight. He said I was useless. He humbled me in front of the whole family. She lowered her head, finally understanding the gravity of what she had done. Now everyone here knows who is really useless in this story. Dr. Henrique put the papers on the table. You have 5 minutes to decide. Sign the confession or face criminal proceedings that can result in prison. Christina and Ricardo signed the rolls without saying a word. Dona Margot tried to justify himself, but no one else was willing to listen to her. When all the documents were signed, Dr. Henrique went to the guests. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Miguel Santos is a righteous man who built his fortune through honest work and technical competence. Anyone who spreads false information about his mental ability or his suitability will be subject to process for defamation. The meeting ended with Christina and Ricardo leaving the room in silence, completely destroyed. The guests approached me to greet me, some apologizing for witnessing the conspiracy without realizing it. Your Jose gave me a tight hug. Miguel, my brother, what a life lesson. You showed that it is not the age that defines man, it is character. But not everything was over. When I thought the worst had passed, Christina returned to the room with an expression I had never seen before. It was no longer shame or fear. It was pure hatred. Do you think you won, Miguel? She said with a cold voice. You can't imagine what I can still do against you. And that's when I realized that the war was just beginning. Christina stared at me with that look of pure hatred and repeated, Do you think you got it, Miguel? You can't imagine what I can do against you. Dr. Henrique stepped ahead, but I signaled him to stop. I wanted to hear what she had to say. What are you hinting, Christina? She smiled, but it was a cold, calculating smile that shivered me. Lucas, she said, calling my grandson that she was standing on the stairs. "Come here, son." The 8-year-old came down confused, not understanding why all adults were so altered. "Grandpa," he said, running to hug me, "why are everyone screaming?" Christina put her hand on the boy's shoulder with a possession I didn't like. "Lucas, dear, Grandpa will have to travel for a long time. Maybe we don't see him for a few years." "What do you mean, Mom?" Ricardo finally reacted. "What are you doing?" "I'm protecting my son," she replied, pulling Lucas close to her. "Miguel, you may have money, you may have lawyers, but I'm his mother, and I'm going to do everything so that my son won't grow up near a man who destroys families." I felt my blood boil. She was wearing my grandson as a weapon. "Christina, are you talking about?" "I'm saying I'm going to court claiming that you are a danger to Lucas, a man of almost 60 years with a history of strange behavior, hiding money from the family, plotting with lawyers. Any judge will give me the full guard." The silence in the room was total. Lucas looked at me scared, not understanding why his mother talked that way about her grandfather. "And there is more," continued Christina, now talking to all present. "You saw everything today. You saw this man settling a staging, bringing lawyers to humiliate his own family. What kind of person does this?" Some people began to murmur. Christina was trying to turn the game, make it look like I was the villain of the story. "Mother, stop!" Ricardo tried to intervene, but she was in a blind fury. "I'm not going to stop, Ricardo. He made us embarrass, lied to everyone, destroyed our family, and now you want us to accept silent?" It was at this moment that Dr. Henrique spoke. "Mrs. Christina, you are making a very serious mistake." "What error?" "You are threatening a man who has the resources to defend himself, and worse, he's doing it in front of witnesses." Dr. Henrique went to all present. "Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnesses that Mrs. Christina has just threatened to use the child as an instrument of emotional blackmail against her grandfather. This is a crime provided for in the Penal Code." Donna Carmen got out indignant. "Christina de Sigona, how can you use Lucas this way?" "It's true," agreed his Joseph. "Miguel never hurt anyone. You who tried to steal him." But Christina was not willing to retreat. "You don't understand. This man has hid a family fortune for 15 years. What kind of father does it? What kind of grandfather acts like this?" It was at this moment that I decided to talk. I approached her, looked straight into her eyes, and said in a calm but firm voice, "Christina, do you want to know why I hid this money? Do you really want to know?" "I want, because I knew you. Because I knew they found out they would do exactly what they did today. They would try to steal me." The room was absolutely silent. "For 15 years I've kept this money a secret to protect this family, so you never need to worry about the problems he could bring, so that they could live in peace." My voice was loaded with emotion but controlled. "I used small parts of it to pay Sandra's surgery when she had cancer, to help Ricardo start at the dealership, to buy this house where you live today." I looked around the room, seeing people absorbing each word. "And when I needed you more, when I lost my job and it was vulnerable, instead of supporting me, you decided to betray me. They planned to join me in a hospice to steal my money." Ricardo lowered his head, finally understanding the gravity of what he had done. "But now do you want to wear my grandson against me?" I continued, looking straight at Christina. "Do you want to make an 8-year-old suffer because of his greed?" Luke, who had heard everything, released himself from his mother's hand and ran to me. "Grandpa, I don't want you to leave." I took the boy on my lap and felt my heart tighten. It was for him that I had to fight. It was for him that I couldn't let Christina win. "Don't worry, my angel. Grandpa doesn't go anywhere." It was at this moment that Dr. Roberto Silva, one of the lawyers, spoke. "Mr. Miguel, you have just committed a crime of threat and attempted parental alienation. With the recordings we have and the witnesses present, we can not only invalidate any guard attempt, but also process it criminally." Christina paled. "What recordings?" Sebastian turned on the stereo again, but this time it was a recording of the conversation that had just happened. "I will do everything so that my son will not grow near a man who destroys families. I will go to court claiming that you are a danger to Lucas." "How did you record this?" she shouted. "Mrs. Christina," Dr. Henrique explained calmly, "from the moment we enter this house, the whole conversation is being recorded. It's a standard procedure when there is suspected threats or blackmail." Christina looked around the room like an cornered animal. He realized that he had completely lost control of the situation. You set it all up." "We didn't set anything," I said, still holding Lucas on our lap. "We only prepared for your reactions. And unfortunately, you reacted exactly as we expected." Dr. Carlos Montenegro, the third lawyer, opened a new folder. "Mrs. Christina and Mr. Ricardo, you now have 2 options. First, sign a commitment term definitively moving away from Mr. Miguel and the child, waiving any right over this property, and committing to not making contact for at least 2 years. And the second option?" Ricardo asked with a broken voice. "Criminal proceedings for estelionato, threat, illegal embarrassment, and attempted parental alienation. With the evidence we have, you can take 2 to 6 years in prison. Christina collapsed in a chair, finally understanding that she had lost. I just wanted the best for my family, the best for your family, said Donna Carmen, shaking her head. Would be respected the man who helped create you. Your Jose approached Ricardo. My son, your father is an honorable man. He worked all his life, created you with dignity, and you paid cheating on him. This is not done with family. Ricardo started to cry. It was not crying with fear or shame. It was a cry of genuine regret. Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to me. Christina kept saying that the Lord was hiding money, that we were entitled. Right? I repeated, putting Lucas on the floor. Ricardo, you were entitled to my love, my support, my guidance, not to my money. I approached my son and put my hand on his shoulder. I never denied you anything. When I needed help buying the car, I helped. When I wanted to take the technical course, I paid. When Lucas was born, I bought the crib, the cart, the clothes. My voice began to fail with emotion. But you thought I owed it anymore. They thought they were entitled to steal me, to humiliate me, to intern Omo if I were crazy. Dad, forgive me. I looked at my son, 42 years. The boy I had taught to ride a bicycle, which I had taken in my lap when I was sick, which I had comforted when the first girlfriend ended with him. Ricardo, I forgive you, but forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean things will be as they were. Dr. Henrique put the papers on the table. The decision is yours. 5 minutes. Christina looked at the documents, then to me, then to Lucas. If I sign this, when can I see my son? On weekends, I said. Lucas can be with me during the week and you on weekends, but far from here. You'll move. What if they don't sign? Asked Donna Carmen. Then the criminal process follows, and the guard of Lucas is definitely with me, Dr. Roberto explained. Christina signed the papers without saying a word. Ricardo also signed, but was crying. Dad, he said, I'm going to do everything to recover your trust. It will take time, son. It will take a long time. After all the documents were signed, Dr. Henrique went to those present. Ladies and gentlemen, this situation serves as a lesson for all of us. Greed can destroy entire families. Mr. Michael could have used his influence to destroy these people completely, but he chose forgiveness. When everyone left, I was alone in the room with Lucas, who was confused by everything that had happened. Grandpa, why got mad with you? How to explain to an 8-year-old that his mother had tried to steal me? Sometimes, Lucas, people do wrong things when they are afraid or angry. His mother was afraid of running out of money. But do you have money, Grandpa? I have, yes, and you know why I'm going to use that money? For what? To make sure you have the best studies, the best education, and grow knowing the difference between right and wrong. Lucas hugged me hard. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, my angel. That night, alone in my house for the first time in years, I reflected on everything that had happened. I had lost a son and a daughter-in-law, but I had saved my grandson. He had been betrayed by the family, but had discovered who was my true friends. On Monday, I traveled to Salvador to start my new work. For 2 years, I supervised the construction of the largest business complex in the Northeast. I won my 2 million bonuses and returned to Sao Paulo richest and wiser. Ricardo fulfilled his word. During these 2 years, he worked hard to recover my confidence. He separated from Christina, who moved inside with her mother. A therapy began, recognized his mistakes, and slowly we began to rebuild our relationship. Lucas was living with me. I enrolled in one of the best private schools in the city. I hired the best private teachers. On weekends, he visited his mother but always came home eager to tell me about his studies, his friends, his dreams. 2 years later, when I came back from Salvador, I found a letter from Ricardo waiting for me. Dad, I know I can never erase what I did. I know I broke your trust in the worst possible way, but I want you to know that these 2 years made me understand the man the Lord has always been, an honorable man, worker, who always put the family first. I cried reading that letter, not of sadness but of relief. My son had returned. Today, 5 years later, our family is rebuilt. Ricardo married again, this time with a woman who respects me and treats me with love. Lucas is 13, one of the best students in school, and wants to be an engineer as his grandfather. Christina has sometimes tried to create problems, but the terms that signed it from preventing any legal action. The last time I learned of her, I was working in a small town in the countryside, away from all the luxury life I dreamed of having at the expense of my money. Sometimes, when I'm sitting on the porch of this house that I almost lost, watching Lucas play in the backyard where I planted that hose 15 years ago, I think of everything I went through, in the humiliation I felt when I was called dead weight, in the betrayal I discovered, in the war I had to stop against my own family. But I also think of the strength I found inside myself, in the courage I had to face people I loved but who were trying to destroy me, in the wisdom I gained by understanding that sometimes it is necessary to fight for our dignity, even when this fight costs us a lot. I learned that the true family is not just the one that shares our blood, it is the one who respects us, supports us, loves us unconditionally. Seu Jose and Dona Carmen, they are still my neighbors and my best friends. Sebastian became almost a brother. Dr. Henrique still takes care of my interests, but now as a real friend. I learned that money can be a blessing or a curse, depending on how people deal with it. For me, it has always been a means of protecting who I love. For Christina, it was a source of destruction. But the most important lesson I learned is that we should never accept to be humiliated, no matter what. Our dignity is priceless. And when someone tries to take this dignity, we have the right, and the duty, to fight to recover it. Today, Miguel Santos is no longer the unemployed metallurgist who was called dead weight at a dining table. I am a respected entrepreneur, a present grandfather, a father who regained his son's love, and especially a man who discovered that his inner strength is greater than any external humiliation. And when I see my grandson Lucas studying at the kitchen table, with that determination in the eyes that reminds me of the boy I was 50 years ago, I know the whole fight was worth it. Because in the end, true wealth is not in the millions I was able to accumulate. It is in the respect I have achieved, the love I preserved, and in the certainty that no one can never call me useless, because now I know who I am, and I know what I am able to.